Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to it's the new year, and it's the Safety and the Sportswriter with Knoxville Nate and Big Joe starting another year covering the NFL. Unfortunately, we're coming to the end of this year, which is one of my least favorite times of the year. I love getting ready for the playoffs, but knowing the end of the year is coming, it's kind of a bittersweet time for me. Nate, how you doing? Happy New Year.
I'm doing well. Happy New Year to you, bud.
Yeah, we only got a lot of things to talk about as the NFL playoff picture kind of is coming to focus now. We know pretty much in the leagues who's going to be there, who's going to make it. There's a couple of spots open, and we'll start talking out about that. And mostly, let's start with the NFC, which is pretty much all but set. We got one in the hunt still, which is the Saints. Everybody else is eliminated. Looking at this lineup here, the changes between this year and last year, of course, the Packers and Bucks are still there. The Rams and Cowboys are up. Looking at the standings, what do you think about the NFC? Who do you like? Who do you like, or who looks like they're going in the right direction? Let's go one by one. We got the Packers going this weekend. Nothing to play for. Sit Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, I mean, they keep talking about playing him. And, LaFleur, when interviewed yesterday and today, said, we're going to play our guys. And you know what? I believe him. But the question is, how long are you going to play him? I'm guessing, Aaron Rodgers and the starters, maybe 2 or 3 series. But I can't really see why you would even risk putting him out there longer than that. I think, this guy is, in my opinion, you know me. Aaron Rodgers is not my favorite dude in the world, but he is the MVP of this league. And in my opinion, he's already solidified that. He should be handed the award today. Freaking 4 interceptions and 500 pass attempts for the 3rd year in a row. I mean, whether you like or dislike this guy, which I don't like him, you can't tell me he's not a freaking amazing quarterback. He's really good, and he's won, 13 games 3 years in a row?
When you look at him, he might be the most talented quarterback ever. I mean,
yeah,
we can go round and round about goats. We can go round and round with who we want. But when you talk about a guy, what he brings to the table, I mean, he knows the game inside and out. I mean, little things like how he can draw teams off sides. He can run the ball. He can pass. He can throw every pass that ever been invented, plus some that have never been invented. I mean, there's never been a quarterback like him before, and probably maybe Pat Mahomes is the one who might come the closest as we go further after Aaron Rodgers retires. But no, I've never seen a quarterback like him, and I've been watching since the 70s, and there's never been anybody like him.
I've never seen anyone so smooth. I mean, his entire career, every game. I mean, he rarely gets rattled. I've seen it a couple times last year, when the Buccaneers beat him the first time early in the season. They kicked their ass, and he was a little bit rattled, but rarely do you see this guy, get knocked off his game. He's very even-keeled, very even-tempered throughout a contest, and he just knows that he can do what he wants to do, throwing the football and beat you. And, how great that team is, I'm not really sure, but you always got a chance with him. I mean, I really didn't like their roster that much last year.
No.
I'm not sure how much that roster's really improved. And the fact that he keeps winning 13 games with these guys, I mean, hell, Zadarius Smith and Jair Alexander haven't even played really all year long. And his offensive line has been hurt. They've been down 3 guys. 3 starters. David Bakhtiari, what's he played? 1 game, maybe, if that. And the rest of these guys, Elton Jenkins has been injured. It doesn't really matter because he can make it happen. He's proved that he can win without Devontae Adams. When he was out, they still won. The only time they've really lost was the game that Aaron Rodgers didn't play.
I think the measuring stick for me of him is the fact that Green Bay runs away with it every year, and you're more of a fan of this team than I am. But the Minnesota Vikings for the last 10 years have not been a bad team.
No.
And Zimmer, although I don't think he's a great coach, he's not a total wash as a coach, but they never seem to be able to bridge that gap between them and the Packers. And you can make an argument that many of those years, if you put the rosters next to each other, you would take the Minnesota Vikings roster over anybody but Aaron Rodgers.
Very true. And, think about it. The Lions, the Bears, the Vikings, all three of those teams, a lot of times we overlook them and we forget about them when we talked about how horrible their record is. Well, a lot of times they've got 2 losses to the Packers, especially the last 3 years. The Bears lose to the Packers every time. So there's 2 losses 3 years in a row almost. And, think about 2 more wins on there. I mean, maybe your boy Nagy would still be the coach next year, but it's been rough getting beat up by Aaron Rodgers and the Packers with not even that talented of a roster. I mean, we've talked about it at length. I don't like those wide receivers. I mean, Devontae Adams is amazing. The rest of those guys, I could do without. So, and he hasn't had his tight end. We don't even talk about that. No one even mentions that. But the guy that had what do you have? 15 touchdowns last year, 10 touchdowns. This year he's not even playing because he got hurt in game 3.
Yeah, it's amazing, and another thing is the young coach. He's learned, he hasn't missed a beat since Mike McCarthy was fired. I mean, he came into town, and for a young coach taking over, he seems to understand what he has to do. I mean, it does help to have the best quarterback of right now being at your disposal, but he doesn't blow it up. He knows how to handle it, and he's had to handle some off the field stuff and questions with Aaron Rodgers and keep everything on an even keel for him. And I think he's done a great job too as well.
No, I'm not 100% sure about how great of a coach he is, just because, like you said, he does have the MVP of the league on his team, and that automatically makes you better. But as you mentioned, he does handle situations pretty good. I mean, he's kept this thing together. He's kept Aaron happy. He did what he had to do to get Aaron to show up. So yeah, I give him credit for that. But we take him and put him in Detroit, and put Dan Campbell in Green Bay, and then we're talking about how great Dan Campbell is.
Joe Judge.
Anybody. I mean, yeah. I'm just saying it's hard to judge guys when you've got that dude playing quarterback. I mean, that's why I say, even though I'm not a huge fan of his, I have to give him the MVP, because if you take him off that team, how many games do they really win, especially this year with the guys they've had out?
Totally. And then, we'll start with the Buccaneers, who we got to mention it. We talked about it before coming on the air. Antonio Brown made a total fool of himself, made a total fool of Tom Brady for going to bat for him, because this guy has shown time and time again that he will bite the hand that feeds him. And he, as you and I discussed before going in the air, I talked about a boss I used to work for that wouldn't let a guy come back, because he said, once they walk out on you, they'll walk out on you again. And he did it again.
Yeah, I mean, the releasing the statement today, pointing fingers at the organization and pointing fingers at the coaching staff and the doctors and the trainers, and saying that they forced him to play when he was hurt and made him take an injection and all this. I mean, you know what? If it was another player besides him, I might believe it. But I'm sorry. I mean, this guy is just proven that, he needs serious help. And I'm just not sure I'm buying everything he's selling.
I mean, this is a man who got a frostbite for putting himself in one of those chambers with wet feet. I mean,
yeah, I know. That's what people forget. Like, how many places has he been run off? I mean, he couldn't survive under Belichick and his tutelage in New England. He went out to Oakland, where they wanted to make him their number one and make him a rock star in the face of the franchise as they moved to Las Vegas. And he couldn't even make it through training camp, bro. I mean, give me a break. I'm over this guy. I wish we would move on from him, and I think we're going to, because he's not going to be on another roster ever again.
No, I don't think at all. Now, looking at the Buccaneers, I think they can. I don't think it'll be a huge distraction for them. I think he was a sideshow at best, but they do have some holes now. Their wide receivers, they've lost some players. Gronk he recovered with a pretty good game this weekend, but he hasn't been playing too well lately. I mean, what do you think about the Bucks? I mean, and we've seen this year, even though a lot of the top quarterbacks, Burrow, those guys, their interceptions are up. What do you think about the Bucks going into the playoffs this year?
Well, it's all going to come down to health. I mean, we'll see how great the goat really is, because he's going to have to do something in these playoffs, and in order for them to repeat, he's going to have to be pretty amazing, and going to have to play better in the playoffs than he's played in the regular season, because they're going to need him. Godwin being out has definitely affected their offense. I mean, people don't really talk about him as much as they talk about Brady, or as much as they talk about Mike Evans, but he's just as important to this offense in scoring points as everybody else. I mean, he makes this thing go. So him being out is hurt. Fournette, they have to get him back. He was playing his best football potentially of his career this year. So if he's healthy, if Evans is healthy, if they get Shaq Barrett back, if they get Levante David back, they've got a chance to win it all once again. But if those guys aren't healthy and he doesn't have those full complement of players on offense and defense, I'm not sure Tommy can do it by himself.
And then I'm going to group these three together because the two of them just played each other. The Rams last weekend overcame another pick six from Stafford. I mean, they've got a lot of offense, but man, it really has bothered me the 2 years of Matt Stafford. He came out of the gate looking like, I finally found my place. I would look for a team like this all my life. I won't make mistakes because I'm on this team. And the second half of the year, he's fallen into that bad interception situation.
He's made some poor decisions down the stretch here, and that's led some people to question the Rams' ability to make it to the Super Bowl. But the last couple of weeks, I don't know if you've noticed, but Odell Beckham has gotten more involved. Von Miller has started making plays, and that's what it's going to take for these guys to make a run. They're going to need these dudes that they, paid for to really step up. And this is kind of like the Yankees of the NFL. They bought these high-priced free agents from other places and plucked them onto their roster. And, that doesn't usually work, but they have got good enough players where it can, if Stafford throws it to the right team.
Well, I know the thing about it is with the McVay offense, they've got to get a running game. Do they have a bell cow, or do they have, do they have the right combination where they can get a game going to take the pressure off of Stafford and to also control the ball? And, we just talked about the Buccaneers. We just talked about, about Green Bay. And you can go quarterback 1A, 1B, goat, whatever. You don't want to have to give the ball back to these guys. So a running game is going to be really big for these guys. Do you see a running game coming around for them?
Yeah, I do. Supposedly Cam Akers is potentially going to try and come back in the playoffs. The guy that ruptured his Achilles in the, training camp. He hasn't played all year long. So if he's healed, which is a big if, but if he's healed, he'll be fresh. But they do have Darrell Henderson and they've got Sony Michel. And to be honest, I think picking up Sony Michel the first week of the season was a tremendous move by them because he's been very solid, especially the last 5 weeks. He's played really well and he started to kind of get his feel of the offense. And I think Sony Michel, in my opinion, is good enough to get a running game going, at least a good enough running game to, make it so that Stafford can throw the ball downfield.
And the thing with him is he's been big in the playoffs before. He's had to come up with some big moments for the Patriots, so he knows what that's all about. Next, we're going to put the Cowboys and the Cardinals, who faced each other last week, with the Cardinals coming away kind of with a surprising victory. And, this is the thing about the NFL this year is we tend to, like a heart monitor. 1 week you think they're up, they're ready to go. The next time they go down. There's nobody that seems to be on that nice, steady pace up outside. We'll get to the team, I think it is, when we go to the AFC. But you look at both these teams. The Cardinals were staggering, and they get this big victory over the Cowboys. And then the Cowboys look like they were ready to take off, and they become the Cowboys of December.
Yeah, they've been slumping a little bit, and it's, offense has been the point that I've really noticed that's gone down. The defense is still playing pretty good, especially if you compared them to last year's team. That defense was garbage, and Dan Quinn deserves a lot of credit because they've gone from a 31st, 30th ranked defense into a top 8 ranked defense this year. That's huge, and I know Micah Parsons has helped, but
Yeah.
Dan Quinn's been the catalyst. I mean, Dan Quinn has made this thing go. And so, that's huge, but they're going to need Dak to play like he was playing in the beginning of the year if they're going to have any chance at all. And I haven't seen that from him the last few weeks, and it definitely has me concerned. And then Michael Gallup is now lost for the rest of the year. He got hurt in that Cardinals game, and he's done. So the guy hadn't really helped that much, but he started to play in this game, and you thought, well, maybe he'll be there for him in the playoffs, and now he's hurt again. So they're a little thin at wideout. They're going to need Cedric Wilson to keep doing what he's doing and help out.
One big thing about Gallup was even if he's not doing anything, he's occupying a defender, which gets you into the right, with Lamb or Cooper into maybe a single up defender. So that helped a lot. The running game with Zeke and Pollard, what do we think?
Yeah, I mean, the last couple of weeks, it hasn't been great. And I feel like they've kind of gone away from the run, too. If they're going to have success, like we were talking about with the Rams, the Cowboys are going to have to run the football. I don't know if you've noticed, but the games that they've won and the games that they played really well, they've run for 150 yards or more. And whether that's Pollard, whether that's Zeke, whether that's a combination of the two, it doesn't really matter. But they need to run the football to open up the field for Dak. And, CeeDee Lamb is one of the most explosive young players in this game, and he can score from anywhere. But if you've got a running game, that opens the field up way more for CeeDee Lamb and creates the opportunity for those big plays.
Yeah, definitely. And, even you go back to the Jason Garrett before Kellen Moore, quote unquote, offenses. I mean, this Dallas team is since they got there, since Zeke and Prescott got there, it's been built around running the ball first, establishing the run, and then everything's play action off of that. And you're right, when they stray away from that, when they start getting pass happy, all of a sudden teams, are able to get them into bad situations. And it's something, you're right. Well, the NFL playoffs, it's always about you got to be able to run the ball at some point. The Cardinals, on the other hand, what did you think of that victory? Can that straighten them out a little bit going into the playoffs?
I thought that was huge for them. I mean, let's be honest, they last few weeks have not been good, and they had the best record in all of football, and then bam, 3 weeks in a row, they were struggling. And to win, I know the Cowboys may not be the best team in the NFL, but they're a good team with a good record and are a playoff team. So to be able to go into Dallas and win that game, I think was huge for them. How far they can go, I don't know. I'm not a huge believer in them, just because Kyler Murray is up and down. I mean, he'll look great and be one of the best quarterbacks in the league at times, and then at other times he's pedestrian. And I just don't feel like he's ready to take them to a Super Bowl. I don't see that. I'm not saying anything down. I'm not putting him down. I'm not saying that I don't like him. I like him as a player. I don't see that consistency within his game to lead them to the promised land.
I also wonder about their coach. Never been big on Cliff. Cliff is always been somebody I've had doubts in, and right now he's got to bring this team together and get them on the same page going in for the next month if he wants to really make a move. The next three, I mean, ones that are still in the hunt. The Niners, of course, comes down to Jimmy G. The Eagles are the team that you got to keep taking a look at because they've been playing so well in the second half of the year. They could be somebody nobody wants to face in the playoffs. I don't think the Saints. I mean, if the Saints make it in, I think it'd be an early exit for them. They'd be fodder. They'd be somebody would be licking their chops to play them, even with their defense as good as it is.
Well, I agree with that, but I also feel like Sean Payton deserves to be in the conversation for Coach of the Year. To
Oh
have
yeah,
this on the cusp of the playoffs, they're 4 deep at quarterback, bro. I mean, give me a break. They ran Trevor Siemian out there 5 weeks in a row. Jameis went down early, and Jameis was playing pretty well, honestly, in his first year starting in the Sean Payton offense. But he went down early. They've gone Trevor Siemian. They've gone Taysom Hill. They've gone Ian Book. I mean, it's been a revolving door. And for him to get enough offense to be able to win the amount of games they've won, he is my Coach of the Year. If you're asking me, and if I've got the only vote, he would be the winner.
I agree. It'd be 8-8 at this stage in the year with that team. Like you said, offensively, and Kamara's been banged up on and off. They haven't had their best wide receiver for the year.
Yeah, Michael Thomas failed to show up. The guy that they're paying $20-something million to catch footballs just decided to have surgery, the first week of the season and hasn't played all year long. So that receiving core wasn't that great, even with Michael Thomas. But you take him away, then you go 4 quarterbacks deep, and like you said, Kamara's been in and out of the lineup. I mean, that's, to me, they lost their other Latavius Murray, who was their secondary runner right before the season because they cut him due to cap restrictions. And wow, to win 8 games, in my opinion, has been nothing short of amazing.
Now the Eagles have been you've been the guy who's had the most faith in the Eagles all year long. What do you think about them going into the playoffs?
Well, yeah, I like that you bring that up because I get no credit around the streets, but I did kind of call that. They were 2-5. Eagles fans were fighting with me on the Twitterverse about Jalen Hurts being a bust and being a joke. And what have they done but pretty much won every game since? And they're averaging over 200 yards a game in all these victories, rushing. And when he's had to throw it, he's had pretty good results. So I like this guy. You know me. I think he is a winner. I think this defense is good enough to win games. And I think this is a team that you really don't want to play because if they can get rolling and get the ball moving down the field with the run game, you're in trouble. I mean, you may not get the ball back. I mean, I like Jordan Howard. I think he's a pretty good runner. And, Miles Sanders, when he's healthy, is good as well. And then they've got Boston Scott and Jalen Hurts. So that's 4 really good running backs. If they can get all those guys healthy at once, they're tough to stop.
I don't know why. I'll tell you. And this, as a Giant fan, every time Boston Scott's on the field, I go into a cold sweat because he just destroys the Giants. I don't know why he's not in the starting lineup for the Eagles every time they play the Giants. Because for some reason, Boston Scott, I mean, he rips them for 120 yards no matter what. It's just amazing, that one team.
Player. He's underrated, just like Jordan Howard. I mean, the Chicago Bears cut him and basically said, we don't need this guy. And let me tell you what, the Chicago Bears could have used him all year long because he has been, since he got there, he was basically out on the street. And since the Eagles picked him up and started handing him the ball, he's been very, very effective. So Scott, Howard, and like I said, Sanders when he's healthy. And you know what? Jalen Hurts might be the best runner of all of them. So this run game is good. And the offensive line finally has started to come around. I mean, if you remember the last couple of years, although Carson Wentz had his troubles, their offensive line was absolute garbage. And they couldn't run block. They couldn't pass block. They really couldn't do anything. And the fact that they're, road grading and leading to 100-yard rushers week in, week out, I think you need to give them some credit.
It's funny, we talk about the offensive lines. We talked about the Giants' offensive line being terrible, the Jets' offensive line being terrible. A lot of teams have terrible offensive lines, and it shows throughout the NFL. And I don't know if it's a lack of depth. I don't know if it's a lack of coaching. I don't know if it's the fact of the matter that in college these guys are in the spread so much. And in the NFL, they're asked to get down into the 3-point stance and do more road grading and stuff. But the offensive line in the NFL, I think over the last 5 years, the offensive line play has really been on a decline. They got to do something to straighten out where it evens out. Yeah, the good teams, yeah, they're very good. They maintain it, but the bad teams never seem to get it together. And it's something that if I'm an NFL owner, I want my GM and my coach to start looking at and saying, let's straighten our line play out.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, the AFC North has been affected potentially the most. I mean, the Ravens line suffered some injuries, but even without the injuries, they have not played very well at all this year. They've given up a ton of sacks. The running game has not been as good. I know they're 5 deep in running back, so that's affected it too. But they've given up a ton of sacks. And then, if you think back to the Monday night game where the Browns, who were supposed to have one of the best offensive lines in the league, they gave up 9 sacks to the Steelers. And it's not like the Steelers have just been sacking quarterbacks at will. I mean, TJ Watt has, but the rest of those guys, not so much. He had 4, but, the rest of those guys contributed for 5 sacks. And that's a long-ass day. I don't care if you're Baker Mayfield or you're Tom Brady or you're Dak Prescott or who the hell you are. You get sacked 9 times in the game, it's going to be a long night in the ice bath.
Yeah, and it's impossible to recover from that. The last NFC team we'll talk about is the San Francisco 49ers. Unfortunately, you and I both are like Jimmy G, but he just this was kind of his audition, and he was kind of inconsistent. Not always his fault, as always. If you look over every interception, sometimes the guy falls down, sometimes it bounces off a hand, sometimes it's a tip ball. But they're going to be crying for Trey Lance in the offseason. For Jimmy G to save his job in San Francisco, I think he's got to somehow make it to the NFC Championship game, and I don't see it happening. What about you?
I think they bring him back. I really do. I mean, I don't know what other options they have besides bringing Jimmy G back. I mean, Trey Lance, to me, doesn't look ready, and Jimmy G's got another year on the contract. So I feel like they're going to bring him back. But I do agree with you. I think what happens in these playoffs has a lot to do with what the final decision is. If they are one and done, or they, are out in the first game or what have you, I think they may consider getting rid of him. But if he can find some magic and figure out a way to win a playoff game or two, I think they definitely bring him back. And I'm not so sure, what type of talent they've got around him right now. I mean, their running back core has been decimated by injuries all year long. Their wide receiver core, I'm not really in love with to begin with. I mean, Deebo Samuel is obviously a stud, but tell me who else on that team scares you besides the tight end.
Yeah. Well, I agree with you there. Even like you said, the thing that I'm saying about it's that court of public opinion. They got Lance for a reason. Lynch, I don't think, wants to look stupid. He had a plan for Trey Lance to be this quarterback sooner rather than later. Depending on, like you said, I mean, it could be contract would be good, but that also could make Jimmy G tradable to somebody.
Yeah.
Who wants to give him a chance. They'll have him under.
Yeah, if there's a team willing to, work out an extension and just so it's not a loaner type of deal, I think they could potentially work out a trade with somebody. I mean, there's teams out there that would go out and get Jimmy G and welcome him because he's better than a lot of these fools that are starting right now.
I'll take him on the Giants right now.
Yeah. I mean, especially with your guy getting his neck fused together, I think Jimmy G would be a huge upgrade to Mike Glennon. Especially
at 30, under contract for a year. Giants got money if they want to use it, and I'm sorry, it's just like Jimmy G would be perfect for that. Especially one thing I don't want to get on a sidetrack with the Giants. We're going to talk to them about them after the playoffs are over with. We got that done, but Saquon Barkley the last 2 weeks started to look like he's getting more comfortable. And usually it takes about a full year and a half to get over that kind of an ACL injury. So I really think that Saquon has a chance of next year getting back to at least being a competitive bell cow running back that they could depend on, which would make a Jimmy G play action passer work well. So we'll see.
Yeah,
but I don't want to get sidetracked.
Yeah, we talked about that before the year, that we didn't really expect a ton out of Saquon this year because he had major knee surgery. And when you're a running back and your main trait that helps you, succeed in football is your explosiveness and your cutting ability. We didn't expect him to have his greatest year this year. So if he can get back to anything close to what he was next year, that'll help whoever's under center.
Yep. All right, let's switch over to the AFC right now. We'll start down at the teams that are hoping to still have a chance. I we'll start with the Ravens. We just talked about them, 8-8. They're who they got. They got do they play Pittsburgh? Who do they play this with? Pittsburgh. I mean, both of them are sitting on the bubble. We said, Ben making that announcement last week was going to do something for Pittsburgh, but Ben's the other part of that is Ben showed that he just doesn't have it anymore. He's getting by on guile and experience right now.
Yeah, what they do have is Najee Harris, who is one of the best young players I've seen in this league. I mean, he took the team on his back. I know it was supposed to be the Big Ben show, but it wasn't. It was all about Najee Harris, 188 yards rushing, the long 37-yard touchdown to seal the game. He was amazing. And to be honest with you, I think he's too much for the Ravens this week. I don't feel the Ravens are just so depleted. It's not even really the Ravens. I mean, we're calling them the Ravens, but how many of these guys that are out there playing are even Ravens dudes? I mean, they're so far deep at so many positions. I mean, I think at last count I saw they were 26 guys on injured reserve, and then Ricard, their Pro Bowl fullback, was put on injured reserve today. So that's 27. I mean, that's I don't care how good you are as a coach or how good Lamar, is or was before he got hurt, but there's just not enough Ravens left to scare me. And I don't know if they can beat anyone right now, including the Steelers. I think the Ravens are done.
And Harbaugh is another guy you got to throw in there as a coach who kept his team around, even though the injuries took a lot of his people away from him. He did a good job of keeping it as long as he did. But like you said,
he did.
Sometimes you don't have enough.
Really keeping them in a lot of these games, but he knows that they're depleted. I mean, that's why I know he got a lot of flack for going for two all those times, but he realized going into overtime with your fifth stringers isn't the best opportunity, isn't the best idea. And so, you can criticize them all you want. And I did on some of those calls, but now that I really think about it and I go back and look at it as a, entire season of work, I understand why I did it.
All right, next we have three teams grouped together. We got the Colts, the Chargers, and the Raiders. All have seemingly have the same problem. You don't know which team you're going to get week to week out of those guys. Do you think the Raiders could push the Colts or Chargers out?
Potentially. I feel like, I don't trust the Raiders. I know they played fairly well this past week and beat the Colts, but, Carson Wentz didn't practice all week long. And, he was questionable for playing in the game due to his COVID status. And it looked like he hadn't practiced all week. I mean, that guy's not the greatest to begin with, but, you throw him out there on Sunday after not even getting to practice or go through the walkthroughs on Saturday, and you get kind of what you got. But they still almost won. I mean, it was a 3-point game. So I feel like I trust the Chargers and the Colts just a little bit more than I trust the Raiders. Un poquito. I mean, I don't trust them a lot, but I trust them a little bit more. I mean, the Chargers are the team, to me, they're the most erratic. I mean, one week you're like, whoa, they won by 30 points. That's a good team they beat. And then the next week you're like, what? They lost by 20 to the Bengals? And it's like, wait a second. So they're the team that I just can't really predict because they're the ones that you definitely don't know which one's going to show up.
And ahead of them, the Patriots, who got right back on track after losing to the Bills. They're technically behind the Bills. Could, I guess, still could take the division if the Bills were to lose in the last game and they win it. But they made a statement. They came out angry last week and really took care of business.
Yeah, they scored. All I heard was that the Jags were going to get better after Urban left, and they've lost by like 40 points 2 weeks in a row. So, I'm not sure that that's necessarily the case, but this was a really good thing, in my opinion, for the Patriots because 2 weeks in a row they took an L and things were going in the wrong direction. So I think the Jaguars were just what the doctor ordered to get the Patriots back on track. Whether or not the Patriots are a Super Bowl team, I don't know. I mean, those 2 weeks really worried me, especially that game against the Colts. Losing to the Bills after you already beat them once, that's not that big a deal to me. But that game against the Colts, they got dominated, and that scared me big time.
Yeah, I would like to. I think it would be a big thing for the Patriots to be able to leapfrog over the Bills and take the division, just to reinstitute their dominance in the division, to try and tell the Bills that you won last year, only because Tom Brady and COVID took us out. We still almost made the playoffs. You were only 4 games better than us. Right now, we've closed that gap in 1 year by getting our defensive players back, and I think that. I think it for the NFC East going forward would be a big thing for the Patriots, for Belichick to reinstitute as winning the division. But we'll see what happens there. What do you think about the Bills right now? What they're looking at?
They're playing all right. I mean, honestly, Devin Singletary's had a couple of decent games in a row, and Josh Allen has continued to run the ball. So they've had a semblance of a running game, and that was the one thing that me and you talked about they've been missing a lot. So they can continue to do that. I think they've got a good shot. I honestly feel pretty good about the Bills at this point, the way their defense is playing and the way that their offense has responded in these past few weeks.
All right, next one we're going to move on to is the biggest shocker. I mean, we both liked him in college. He had one of the greatest years ever in the history of college football, and the knee injury took him out last year. But Joe Burrow, my God, he's put the Bengals back on the map in like a year and a half in pro football.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing what a tremendous quarterback can do for an NFL football team. I mean, they can score on every series. I mean, last week they pretty much did score points on almost every drive. And Chase is great. T. Higgins is good. Tyler Boyd is good. They have good weapons, but all of those guys look way better because of who's throwing them the football. I mean, hell, Zach Taylor, what he win 3 games in 3 years, and now that he's got this guy back there playing quarterback, they're winning the division. So that's huge. And I kind of feel like, not to rip on my boy Zach, but I almost feel like they're winning in spite of him, and not that he's putting together these massively great game plans. I'm not sure how good a coach he is, because some of the decisions he was making at the ends of some of these games are bonkers. And the fact they're still winning just shows you how amazing Joe Burrow is. I think if he didn't have as many interceptions as he's thrown, he might be in the talk for MVP, but that's Aaron Rodgers this year.
Speaking of, I'm glad you brought that up. When you look at the two teams, when you look at Cincinnati, when you look at Green Bay, if you took those quarterbacks off those teams, what kind of teams would they be?
Yeah, I mean, that's what we were talking about when we were talking about Green Bay. If you remove Aaron Rodgers off that team, you get what you saw in that Chiefs game. where Jordan Love had to play, and what was it, 13-7, 13-10? I mean, it was, they couldn't score more than 10 points, and I think you'd get a lot of that all season long. I mean, these guys would be able to focus on the run and really try and shut down Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon. And with the holes that they've got in the offensive line, defenses could do that. And I think you're talking about going from 13 wins, down to 5 or 6. And that's, I know that's a lot, but I'm being dead serious. If you trade and you take Aaron Rodgers and you put him on the bench and you put Jordan Love out there, I think you go from 13 to 5.
And the Bengals, you saw it. I can do it. You know, mathematically, right now they're 8 games better than last year with Joe Burrow.
Yeah, same deal.
Yeah,
13-5. That's 8 games.
So if you look at it, the Bengals took out the Chiefs last week. That was a big victory for them. To go out against the big boys in the AFC late in the season and win there. We all throw around statement games, whatever, but I think that's a big confidence builder going into the playoffs, because you might come across the Chiefs somewhere in the playoffs. So when you look at what it meant to that team for their confidence level, what do you throw into it going forward?
A lot. I think it's huge. Not only did they beat the team that's represented the AFC in the last 2 Super Bowls, but they beat Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid, and they won the division. That was huge. I mean, when's the last time the Bengals even won that freaking division? I have no idea, but it's been a while. And so, to win that division and win that game, especially the way they won it there at the end, I think it helps them tremendously moving forward. I still don't feel great about their chances in the playoffs, and honestly, if those two teams, played each other again, I'd probably pick the Chiefs. But still, I mean, that does worlds of good for the Bengals moving forward, winning that game.
Yeah, I think the Bengals, moving forward, it's not too far forward that they have to get, but I mean, they're going to need to start getting into, hopefully, if they get the experience this year, next year, start looking to get some home games in the playoffs where they can really make the moves and use the weather effect of Cincinnati and everything that Northeast and middle of the country people always use well. Next is let's talk to the Titans before we go to the Chiefs. Titans 11-5. Vrabel's done a good job without their best player. I mean, they've had some moments. They've had some bad moments. They've looked, but overall, let's face facts. They're not in the best division. You got Jacksonville and you got the Texans, but they're still 2 games ahead of Indianapolis, and I got to say, Mike Vrabel's done a great job.
I agree. I really do. I mean, winning 11, 12 games without Derrick Henry is very impressive, and I think the defense has gotten a lot better this year. And we forget their offensive coordinator from the last few years that they've had tons of success with is gone. He's now the head coach of the Falcons. So, this has been a big time on Vrabel's shoulders, and I think he does deserve a lot of the credit for their success. And they have had some games where they've been a little shaky, but when you take the best player off of a team, that's what happens. Some weeks they just, aren't firing on all cylinders and they get beat. And let's also be honest, those wide receivers have rarely played together. Julio Jones, he's kind of been a disappointment in my opinion because he hasn't been there very often. And the amount of time where A.J. Brown, Julio Jones, and Derrick Henry have all 3 been on the field at the same time has been very small. So considering that, you got to give your boy Vrabel even more credit.
I always liked Vrabel. I always liked him. He's a good linebacker.
I like him.
Ohio State boy.
Yeah, he's a Buckeye, and he was great when he played for the Steelers, and he was great when he played for the Patriots. I mean, those are 2 of the class organizations of the league, and he thrived on both of them.
And then we got the Chiefs. I mean, I don't know how much the Bengals. I think it means a lot more to the Bengals than it means against the Chiefs right now. But still, I mean, is the defense had rounded into shape? Did we see some holes in the defense we should be paying attention to, or what?
Man, I was very high in their defense and was, throwing praise Spagnola's way every show until this past weekend. But that's Jamar Chase, that's Joe Burrow, that's Tyler Boyd, that's T Higgins. I mean, it's tough to defend those guys, especially when you're talking about your third, fourth corner option, and the third and fourth corner option on the Chiefs is not good, and that does concern me a little bit. Teams are watching. This is a copycat league, and if you want to know how to beat the Chiefs, it's throw the football.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The thing about the Chiefs on offense, they look like they're ready to go, though, right?
Yeah, man, I don't worry about them offensively. They're going to get points. They're going to score. This is just, can they stop anybody? And they've been doing a pretty good job of it, honestly, all year long, since Steve righted the ship. But that was a little bit nerve-wracking this past week when the Bengals put up all those yards on them. I think they're going to have to get to the quarterback. I mean, they've got to generate some sort of pass rush. Chris Jones needs to be on the edge, getting into the backfield. I mean, they have to do that, or they're going to be in trouble. So they can't just let the guy sit back there and pick their corners apart, because their corners aren't good enough.
All right, let's change pace a little bit here, but we're going to stay in the AFC in the playoffs. We got 3 young quarterbacks looking at their first time in the playoffs. 1 rookie, 2 second-year guys. I want you to analyze each of them individually, and we'll start with Mac Jones. We'll start with the rookie. What do you like about him? What don't you like about him? What do you think he has to do to be successful in the playoffs?
I mean, I like him. I like his poise. I like his ability to, play like a guy that's not a rookie. I mean, that's been his biggest attribute, in my opinion, is that a lot of time he's, been mistake free. The problem is, I don't know if I want him throwing 40 passes. I mean, their whole thing about the Patriots this year, as far as their success goes, has been about running the ball and playing defense. So you don't need this guy to throw. I mean, hell, he threw 3 passes and they won. So you don't need him to throw it 40 times. I just want him to take care of the football. I want him to play within himself. Take what the defense gives you, man. Don't try and beat Tom Brady and throw the way to the Super Bowl, because they don't have to do that. They've got enough with Damian Harris, with Ramondre Stevenson, with all the other running backs they have. They've got enough where he doesn't have to do a whole lot for them to win. And I love, we talked about last year how much I hated their roster and how much I disliked, their weapons. Well, this year's a different story. I like Jonnu Smith. I like Hunter Henry. I like Bourne. Jacoby Myers has stepped up and played well, even this year. So I like the guys they have around him now. And if he sticks to the game plan, takes what the defense gives him, and doesn't try and do too much, I think he's got a chance to win a few games and have a really good rookie campaign in the playoffs.
It's funny that suddenly being an Alabama quarterback isn't kind of an anchor on your career. When you look at what he put together, Tua and Jalen Hurts, basically Jalen Hurts cut his teeth at Alabama. Suddenly, not that Saban needs any more of our approval, but it doesn't seem like, the old thing saying was, oh, you're a system quarterback from Bama. You can play for the Tide, but you can't play for much else. And these 3 guys are breaking that mold, right?
Well, yeah, and let's really break it down here. I mean, these quarterbacks are a lot better than the other guys they were dumping in the league. I mean, A.J. McCarron, Greg McElroy, those guys, Bryce, what was the guy's name? Not Bryce, Blake Sims. They were able to make it to the championship game and win championships with those dudes, but those guys were nowhere near as talented as these guys. The only one that's really kind of surprised me is Mac Jones. He only played the 1 year. He wasn't really, no one really knew who he was before he took over. And, a lot of the credit that should have been maybe put upon him was kind of given to the wide receivers. Devontae Smith won the Heisman, and he had Najee Harris, and it was kind of like, man, anyone could play quarterback. So you weren't really sure how good he would be in the NFL just because they were so good around him. But I think he's proven that he is serviceable, and going to Bill Belichick's team, if he can just keep doing what he did that year at Bama, they can win games.
Yeah, imagine if he was to win the Super Bowl, would it be like national championship, Super Bowl? What's the difference?
Yeah, yeah. Oh, that's the thing. That is the one thing too that you asked me what I like about him. I like his poise. I mean, this isn't going to be too big for him. Even when he wasn't playing, they were in all the big games, and he's been to the SEC championship, and he's been to the national championship and the college football playoff and the bowl games and all that stuff. So playing in a playoff game, it's not going to freak him out, not one bit. And I'm glad you brought Tua up, because hell, Dolphins fans want to get rid of this guy 6-7 weeks ago. They were ready to toss him aside. They were ready to trade him. They wanted to get they'd rather have a guy that's got 21 sexual assault cases on his docket. They didn't care. They just didn't really want Tua and wanted nothing to do with him. And man, I haven't heard much of that the last few weeks. Have you?
Nor should they, with how well he played. I mean, Tua played very well this year.
He's played really good, and I know this past weekend against Tennessee and Nashville, that wasn't his best game, but we talk all about what these guys have around him, and to be honest with you, I think Tua has the least around him of anyone. And I don't love his wide receivers. I like the tight ends, Durham Smith from Notre Dame and Gesicki. I like both those guys, but other than that, I think his weapons are garbage. So the fact that he's played as well as he has with the dudes he's got to throw to, I think is pretty impressive.
I was happy for him and Flores for taking the pressure off, because I thought I was really worried that Miami was going to pull the plug on both of them early in the season. So it was nice that they made a run and maybe didn't make it, but at least they got something to build for next year. We'll go to Justin Herbert yet. You've always been big on him coming out of Oregon. So far as a pro, the NFL's not too big for him. He's a big guy, big arm, but he's got an inexperienced coach, and the team we didn't expect to go this far, this fast. How's that going to serve him come playoffs?
Man, he's great. I've got no reservations about him, to quote Anthony Bourdain, but I do have reservations about their coach. He kind of scares me at times. I mean, the guy goes for it on 4th down on their own 20. He doesn't know that they're allowed to punt the ball. I think if somebody would remind him that they have a dude they pay to kick it to the other team, I think it would serve him very well. And, I'm not saying he's a bad coach. I'm not saying that he can't grow in to a guy that can, win playoff games. But the way it sits right now in his first year, I'm not sure if this is a guy that can lead them to the Super Bowl. In fact, I don't have much faith in him.
Well, but you got to say he did get him into the play, or he's got him on the cusp of the playoffs, I should say. We don't know. These things could still happen.
He did, but that's also has a lot to do with who he's got slinging the ball back there. I mean, that guy can throw it around the yard. I mean, Mike Williams, the players that they have on that team. I feel like not so much as Aaron Rodgers, but a little bit. He makes all those guys better, and makes them all look a lot better than maybe they are, because he can put the ball anywhere. And as we've seen, he can run it. He can throw it. He makes good decisions. I like this kid, and I liked him coming out. I thought he was the best quarterback in that draft, and I still stand by that.
And then we got Joe Burrow. I mean, we talked about him a few minutes ago. He's been everything. He showed that year at LSU that he can win the big games, and he can take care of business. you just put it together that he may not have the team or the coach around him yet to do that. But had that having been said, give me your upside, downside of Joe Burrow. What do you like about him so far? What do you want to see him improve on, or is there something you're looking for him to improve on?
I mean, really, the only criticism you can lay on him is, a few mistakes, throwing into tight windows, and a couple interceptions that maybe shouldn't be on his stat sheet. But other than that, what can you complain about? I mean, this guy is a leader. This guy is a positive influence on everybody on that roster. I feel like he can make every throw in the book, and with those guys that he's got outside, I mean. I was very skeptical of the Jamar Chase draft pick. I'm like, they already got good wide receivers. I think they need offensive line here. And I was very vocal about that. And I got to admit, I was dead wrong. Jamar Chase was the right pick because those dudes have chemistry. They can score on any play. And that's what you got to contend with when you've got Joe Burrow and you've got these weapons. And Joe Mixon has probably put together, in my opinion, his best year. Maybe not statistically overall, but just the way he's played, I like how he's run the football. So the Bengals can definitely score, and no one really talks about it, but that Hendrickson that the Bengals picked up from the New Orleans Saints, they gave him a ton of money, and there was a lot of people questioning that contract prior to the year. No one's questioning it now because that guy has made his hay all year long, getting into the backfield and sacking quarterbacks. So if they can keep doing that, they got a chance to beat anybody.
All right. Do we have any picks coming up this week?
Well, as I just discussed, it's going to be kind of hard to pick a lot of these games because you don't know really who's playing and who's sitting and not sitting. But as I mentioned, I kind of feel like the Ravens are donezo. I'm picking the Steelers. I feel like they're going to win this game. I feel like Big Ben, I know it's on the road and they have to go into Baltimore, but we still don't know if Lamar is going to play. And if Lamar does play, is this 100% Lamar? I don't think so. I mean, he hasn't played in, 3 weeks?
Yeah.
And wasn't looking great before that. You know how much I love Lamar, but I just being honest, he didn't really look that good before that. He was trying to do too much. He was forcing balls where he shouldn't. And they're just missing too many people. So I feel like the Steelers are going to win this game, and they're going to lean heavy on Najee.
Well, we'll take that as your pick of the week. Who do we got on man coverage this week? And let's we're going to get your pick for the championship game as well. Who do we got? Who's going to be on man coverage?
Yeah, we're going to have on Sunday at 11 a.m. Eastern time on man coverage at man_coverage, Twitter. We're going to have Travis Stevens on the program, all-time leading rusher in Tennessee history for a single season, 1,464 yards in 2001. This is a guy that, he played on a team in a backfield with Jamal Lewis, Travis Henry, Sean Bryson. We're talking about 3 NFL running backs. And he waited his turn, man. He redshirted 1 year. 2 other years, he got some carries and did some good things. But everybody's like, man, this guy's going to be our bell cow this year. I don't know about this guy. He's too small. He can't do it. And what did he do but went out and set the single-season rushing record for the Vols and got drafted by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and played for the Texans and had a tremendous career. And he's also a really nice guy. So we're going to have him on the show on Sunday. We're going to be breaking down the college football playoff. We're going to be breaking down the transfer portal. A lot of guys hitting the portal right now. So it's pretty interesting. And my Buckeyes are making moves. We got the safety from Oklahoma State is following his coach. We also signed Abori, the defensive end, 2 days ago. So we're fixing a lot of our issues, and we're going to talk about all the different moves that teams are making right now. Caleb Williams, the quarterback from Oklahoma, just entered the portal. That's big time news because every team wants that guy.
Yeah, it's Lincoln Riley's going to leave the cupboard bare. It looks like.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Is he going to go to USC and follow Lincoln Riley, or is he going to go somewhere else and stun us? I mean, that's kind of the question. And me and the boys will break down where we think he's going and some potential landing spots for Caleb Williams.
That's the thing that worries you about the way the coaches move. That now they can kind of take their whole team with them if they want in the transfer portal. It seems so. That's the craziness of that. And the rumors now this week were about Jim Harbaugh going back to the pros, and we'll see if that's going to happen in the next month or so because he's saying no, which is usually the way he's heading for the door. So we'll see. But anyways, everybody, thanks for tuning in tonight. We will be back next week to break down the playoffs as that begins. Remember about man coverage on Sunday. And we'll see y'all later. Happy New Year, everybody. And you stay safe with this storm coming, Nate.
Yeah, we're getting hammered right now. So, it's not like a blizzard that you would get up north, but, people around here don't know how to drive in the snow. They have no clue what the hell they're doing. You don't want to be anywhere near any of these people on the road. And they don't have the equipment, the trucks, the plows, all that stuff that they've got up north. They don't have that stuff down here. So everything's going to probably be shut down for a day or two.
Well, I just hope the power stays on for your sake. That's all I want for you.
Yeah,
and
me
you
too.
and
So
your family stay safe. All right.
We will do.
All right, buddy. I'll talk to you later. Everybody have a great night. We will be back next Thursday at 7:00.
All right, buddy.